Welcome to the Quasi Show. This is Mazza.
And Mary.
Well, actually, I'm Mary Ann, but, you know, Mary Ann, anyone's bound to be confused. How are you, Mary?
I'm very well, Mary Ann. I've had a very good week. We're only up to Wednesday, aren't we? Yeah.
So today we're going to be speaking about self-awareness and the value of increasing self-awareness, and just how amazing life becomes the more aware we become. And what are you? Don't give me dead air, Mary. Speak.
Right. When you throw a big subject out there like that, Mary Ann, you might just get some quick inhale of breath for people, and sometimes, you know, self-awareness is a little bit scary. Because, well, we can get into why, but it can be a little bit scary.
Yeah, why's that?
We're going to get into why straight away.
Yeah.
Because self-awareness is often accompanied with responsibility. Am I then responsible for how I feel, for what I do, for...
Yes, you are.
Yes, I know.
And I love that word responsibility. It's the ability to respond. And I love this in corporates or, you know, in our commercial world, because when you're going into coach in those environments, the first thing they say is that we want people to be accountable, right? And I say, you mean you want them to be responsible? And they said, well, yeah. And I said, well, accountability and responsibility have one common word, and that's ability. Do they actually have the ability to respond? And I think that's That's the scary piece. That's the scary piece that we all suffer from. And when we haven't practiced self-awareness or any sort of emotional intelligence, because that's the gap that people freak out about. Do I have the ability to respond to this situation?
Yeah, that's and beautifully separated there between responsibility and response ability, being able to. That's so key. Yes. So, yeah, good juicy, I'm using your word, Mary Ann, good juicy topic.
I knew I'd rub off on you sooner or later, Mary. And so, and the value of this and how you can increase your self-awareness to a point of it will flow into self-management, it will flow into self-regulation, it will flow into happiness, it will flow into all of these places, because it allows somebody, the more aware we become, it allows somebody choices, a lot of choices.
Yes, a lot of choices. It allows us to connect and opens us up and expands us as well.
Yeah, and to really have a good look in that cosmic mirror about our self-awareness makes us more available to ourselves and more available to others, which means we're much nicer to be around, Mary. Do you
much nicer to be around. Well, yes, I agree. So
we can play with empathy. If you look at empathy, it's the key ingredient to connection. So self-awareness is just such a valuable key in life, and it is the first step in emotional intelligence.
Yes. Okay. And I guess it starts with the big question, or a little question: who are we being?
Who are we being? Yeah. Well, you've got to have tons of self-inquiry to become self-aware. So who are we being? What are we doing? How are we showing up? All of the stuff we always talk about. But what is self-awareness, Mary? I don't want to hear you here. Speak up.
You got the inhale again.
Yes, you hate it when I throw you a question. So you can ask me if you like.
Sure. What is self-awareness, Mary Ann?
Oh, you did too. Self-awareness. It is the ability to look at yourself and take responsibility for who you are being. It gives you a viewpoint from being able to give you the options or choices to make a change, feel different, think differently, change your perspective, and and create a desired outcome a desired outcome.
All right, so once we ask that question, who am I being, and I start to show up and I start to work towards my outcome, is there a destination? Do I get to stop?
What do you mean stop?
Do I get to say, well, I'm self-aware now?
No, it's kind of like a new skill, like speaking properly. You just don't stop speaking properly. You're in practice of that all the time. But I'd like to think that we're always growing and evolving. And here's the thing. I was speaking to someone recently. This is a really valuable piece because I was coaching somebody and I said, a lot of people, I said, what is a new skill you'd like to learn? And she said, sorry? And I said, well, if you look at, we've been programmed to sort of grow up, do what we do, get married, have babies, work, and all of these things, right? A traditional life, that's what we sort of get stuck into. We go on holidays, we do this, we do that, hopefully have some fun along the way. But when is it, a lot of people were programmed to just get their skills and stop. And then, just like you say, they go into the world and they might learn a few more things with their jobs and so forth. But, do they ever decide to learn a new skill? I believe there's only a small amount of the population that decide to keep upskilling and growing and learning. Now, they might do it for tools of the trade. Imagine, Mary, doing it for personal progression, personal well-being, and having a self-discovery of who you are consistently. People think they know themselves, but I can guarantee you, Mary, I just have to ask you one question and I will blow you out of the water that you don't.
I 100% agree with that, and I'm probably scared to answer that question, Marianne.
Well, if you asked anybody, what have they learnt about themselves in the last 6 months, most people would go and look up at the sky and try and grab a memory. And not many people have ever been asked that question before. What have you learnt about yourself in the last 6 months? What have you learned about yourself in the last year? And self-reflection is the key to self-awareness, right?
Yep. Okay, you've covered a lot of ground there, Marianne, and I'd just like to recap on that. I love that question. What have you learnt about yourself in the past 6 months and then all of the past year? That is very powerful, and I'm happy to say I've learnt a lot. I learnt things that I never thought I would even consider learning, and mostly from a personal development, or entirely from a personal awareness and personal development viewpoint. Actually, I'm learning a new skill right now, aren't I? I'm learning about how to podcast, but and I never thought I would do that. But the self-inquiry that I've continued on, because it has been an ongoing process for me, has really sped up in the last 12 months. And then, so a fantastic place to kick off anybody's self-awareness journey is asking that question. So I love it. What have you learnt about yourself in the last 12 months, Marianne?
We need to take a break so we can come back. And does anybody really care but me is another question. So we're just going to take a quick break and we'll be back in one moment.
Okay.
Welcome back, Mary.
Thanks, Marianne. Gosh, you threw a curveball just as we finished up there, and I'm just not quite sure what's about to come out now. So you threw out a line, who cares but me? Who cares but me?
Well, it's an interesting thing because we go through life operating through this filter of fear of what others will think of us, right? And self-awareness or self-reflection, if we were that self-aware, we would know and recognise that we actually don't have enough attention as human beings to be worrying about what that person thinks of me. I'll reverse that. We don't have enough attention to worry about what that other person is doing, because our attention is focused on what we're worried about, what they think of us, generally, right?
Yeah. It kind of goes back to that old adage, what someone else thinks about me is none of my business. But
Perfect.
it's and it's exactly like my experience with doing this, my awe of you in being so accomplished as a speaker and in radio and podcast, the work you've done previously, and this is all new to me, so I've got myself in knots at time and provided plenty of dead air with being afraid of and worried about what someone else might think, and then of course nobody cares, because they might be listening to the message but not so worried about how it's being presented, and I might be worried about how it's being presented.
Well, a lot of people, it's their comfort. So, of course, if our sound is all over the place, which it generally is, so people get frustrated with that. So here's a great analogy, Mary. Everybody, it's all of. I just did a coaching session in corporate this morning. So as I was saying to them, if there were 2 books on the shelf and one was all about me and one was all about you, which one would you buy? Well, you'd buy the one all about you, because you don't care about me. You like me and we're mates and stuff like that. But the point is, you're so curious to discover, what does someone write about me? So the point of the matter is that nobody cares, because they're always wanting to know what's in it for them. And so it's the same with relationships, with business colleagues. Sales is a massive one around this. So when we're marketing ourselves, if we're just talking about us, right? If you go to a website, there was this amazing TED talk I listened to recently, and a company researched 1,000 websites. And out of 1,000 of the top, even the top 500 Fortune companies, out of that 1,000, that group, only 6 of the 1,000 actually was customer first. Like it was talking to the customer. So the customer would go to the website and it would say, who are you? Are you this person seeking this? Are you this person seeking that? So that's how we create engagement. Okay, so the more self-aware we are, the more engagement, which is connection, which we all, seek is connection, the more connection that we can have. Therefore, if we're all craving connection, whether it be in our personal life or we're seeking connection to increase sales in a business environment, then we need to be self-aware, Mary.
Okay, so you've managed to, again, throw in a lot of things there, Marianne, so I'll just wind you back. And it's all very beneficial. So if I'm looking at self-awareness as a leader in an organisation, and I guess my first step would be working on my own self-awareness. How do I encourage others to create self-awareness? What do I have to do?
Okay, so the first thing you need to do is appreciate that the skills that have been disconnecting us all our life, which are about IQ, I have to be competitive, smarter, better, faster, all of these things, none of them come from the soft skills of what we all really want, which is connection, right? So the more self-aware I can become, it gives me an understanding or an empathy about, I see that person is struggling, or I see that person is freaking out about something. I can see that person, not I think I know what that person is going through, or I'm so unaware, I have no clue what they're going through, just do the job. Or
so it's more about, so that I like that, really like that. I see that person. So rather than standing up there as a leader or as an organisation saying, hey, do you see me, to the audience or the client, do you see me? What you're suggesting is self-awareness will enable you to see them and create a connection.
Yes. So you'll be able to see far more things than opposed to not being self-aware. And this is the power of emotional intelligence. So if I'm sitting there and I'm going, I can see that person is, I can even hear what they're saying. I'm seeing what they're saying. Instead of, I'm not self-aware, this is all about me, and I'm actually wanting to make my budget. So I don't care about that person. The more self-aware you become, the more compassionate you become, the more self-compassion you have, the happier, more your happiness level goes up. So self-awareness in relationship, like having been so self-aware, I can find it, I can go two ways in relationship with others. I can feel even more separate by, my God, they're just not self-aware, which is a judgment. Or I can actually feel more connected by having empathy and compassion.
Right.
I can see their suffering. I can see their challenge. I can see they're really, really unhappy right now. You know, how can I be of service in this moment?
So how do we stop, if we're saying that self-awareness is a skill and a personal exploration, is that right? Is that a fair statement to say that it's a skill that we can develop and work on?
Absolutely.
Okay, so does it shift? Like, can we be really aware in the workplace and then not aware at home, or does it, once we develop the skill, does it cross over all areas of our lives?
Correct.
Okay.
All relationships are enhanced. Can be an initial shock at the beginning. I remember a couple of years ago, I was really practicing a lot, doing a lot of research around codependent narcissistic behaviour, and which is an epidemic in relationships. And I was doing some tests online to increase my self-awareness around it. I was horrified that I had some narcissistic traits at that time. So it actually collapsed. It gave me the ability to collapse some identities, some old identities I had been operating through that were no longer serving me. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, that's and I think that's where I was going with it, that we have different costumes and different identities for different areas of our life, so we can come home and be a warm and loving person but be an absolute tyrant in the office.
Yeah, well, that's normally how most people behave, because they're pretending. So they put on I have to be in control, protect myself, or get acceptance. So they go into the office with one of those coats on. And people struggle to find what is real, who they really are as an authentic person, whether they're in the workplace or at home. And you'll know that you have high self-awareness and authenticity when you do not change from one coat to the next. You are fully present who you are, whether you're with family or friends or you're in the office.
Right, so you're comfortable wearing your costume or your clear identity. You're comfortable being transparent.
No, there is no identity. There is no costume, because you are transparent. You are authentic. You are self-aware. You are available. You're a beautiful person, you know, right? So you don't have to be an asshole going into the office just so you can be big and strong and be a big bad leader. You can actually be a beautiful person as a leader.
That's nice. I like that. That might be a good place to just take a little break, Marianne.
Okay. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, welcome back. Hi.
Hey.
Hey.
High self-awareness and authentic presence is one of the key things that you said in that last little piece, Marianne.
Did I don't ever remember what I say. It just sort of flows through, but
it was pretty good. So how do I know who I am?
Yeah, great question. Really great question. Just like I say, you know, if I'm coaching someone, so what have you learned about yourself in the last 6 months? They go, gee, because no one's ever asked me that. That's a tough question. I guess from my coaching hundreds upon hundreds of people over the years, I notice that people don't know themselves, and I can get them to write, or I can get them to do a 20 questions, like name 3 things that you believe about relationships. Name 3 things, you know, that you think about yourself. And they get to the end of it and they're horrified with what they've discovered. And it shows that we live outside of ourselves, you know. We don't have a connection within. We think we know ourselves, but unfortunately, without any emotional intelligence, we're operating through the ego, which is around control, protection, and please approve of me.
Yeah, you said before we've all got a little protection order on ourselves. I quite like that. We certainly do often hide who we are, and
yeah. Well, we don't know. We don't know.
Yeah,
we don't always know. I mean, I've got a pretty good clue around who I am, but I'm always discovering more and more and more, because whatever situation that you put yourself in, it becomes then about self-awareness, but then self-management. How am I managing myself and showing up in this situation? And really,
how do I respond?
Yes, it's really like I can have some really tricky corporate coaching situations, especially when you go into corporate, and some people don't want to be coached. You know, their boss says, okay, we're going to get this coach in and blah, 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 and you might have 25% of them don't want to be coached, so you're up against resistance. And so,
yeah, because we don't always like to be asked those questions. We don't like to be asked any questions. We don't necessarily like to ask questions of ourselves in private. So being put into a coaching situation and an employment, that can be, again, quite frightening, because you might get asked a simple question and things begin to unravel.
yeah.
How do we help people in that situation? What do you do to make people feel safe and open them up for coaching and self-discovery?
Yeah, so there's several things. I mean, who am I talking to? Coaches, or is it about offering people a way that they can feel safe? You know,
yeah.
And I think it's to feel safe, we have to once again take responsibility and speak up when we don't feel safe. And I have so much respect for people that speak up and say, I don't feel safe right now. I don't feel comfortable answering that. Because one thing that we're programmed to do, Mary, is respond because we think we have to. You know, we go into child psychology, as you know, is about child, adult, and parent identity, and we live through these filters. So we go into child when we're asked something like, and feel often intimidated and out of control. You know, what if I say it wrong? It might trigger the classroom child where we're going to look stupid. It might trigger all sorts of things. So the more self-aware we are, the more we can feel into, oh, actually, that's freaking me out, you know, or we can have a gap, a space to go, I understand this question is making me feel a certain way. That's self-awareness. That's the beautiful part of self-awareness. We have the space, even if it's a second or two, to feel in to the reaction of a question, which is in our body. It's never anywhere else.
We have to be willing to give ourselves a little space to notice the answer and not just react to it.
Well, we'll either react, which is no space, or respond, which is a softer landing. And so when somebody says, you know, I'm really feeling really intimidated right now, or I'm feeling pushed, or I'm feeling this, I will just really throw all my appreciation towards them, because that is self-management of I'm taking charge, I'm keeping myself safe here. And I think that's the main problem in the world, is people don't feel safe exposing or opening or unpacking their feelings, because they don't know what they're going to bring up. They don't know, if they open that can of worms to actually connect to their own feelings, what that will feel like. But what I can assure you is that once you understand your feelings, you just feel so safe in most situations because you know yourself.
Yeah, that's certainly something I can relate to in my own early experiences of becoming self-aware and doing self-awareness work, is that I noticed there was a depth of sadness that I certainly didn't want to touch. If I could feel it inside, like an absolute block deep in the pit of my stomach, and it was something that I just didn't want to touch at all. But you know, as it turned out, it wasn't that awful, and it was felt a lot better after slowly picking at it. It didn't take that long, and that's often a nice thing to know as well, that it doesn't necessarily take that long. It doesn't really hurt as much as you might fear.
Yeah, well, when we haven't dealt with feelings, whether it be grief, sadness, fear, trauma, whatever has happened to us, whatever we haven't dealt with, we tend to reach for relief, as we know, addictions, cigarettes, you know, drugs, alcohol, antidepressants, whatever we can do, food, in order to create, either soothe ourselves or create some dopamine in our brain to relax us in some way. So we either, if we haven't dealt with our feelings or we don't know how to manage our feelings and we have no self-awareness, it becomes a frightening existence to live in. Life becomes frightening.
It becomes a matter of survival.
Yeah, and who, you know, I know what that feels like, you know, so I just cannot stress enough the value of learning about who you are and how you tick, and go and have a good look, and self-inquiry and emotional intelligence, anything you can do around personal development, meditation, mindfulness practices. It is the way forward to live a happier life.
Okay, so is it break time again, and then we can come back with a few things, a few reminders for people?
Yeah, I guess a few more questions that people can ask themselves, and some guidance around solutions, you know, about, you know, it's really, there's nothing out there that can harm you, only how you feel about it inside. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
Right. Back soon. Welcome back.
Welcome back. Hi, Marianne.
I pushed the button too soon and said 3. Anyway, this is really valuable, Mary, because I'm thinking about how can we help the audience recognise whether they're self-aware or not. And a great way is, I think it was actually, this came from the Salvation Army, what's it called, the 12-step program, where they looked at the behaviour of addicts, and they noticed that all relationships ruled by drama were in a triangle of 3 identities: the persecutor, the victim, and the rescuer. And we switch into different identities, which is the same as not being aware. So one minute we're persecuting someone, judging them, you know, projecting our crap onto someone, blaming. Next minute we're a victim, feeling guilty, hurt, oh poor me, you know, and then we're the rescuer, you know, trying to make it all better and to be liked, or manipulating, you know, and things like this. And so we go round in this drama. So if anybody out there has a relationship built on drama, then they know that it would be a really, really great idea to increase self-awareness. And the opposite of that is the relationship ruled by awareness, which is about the 3 identities of the person who wants to learn and grow, the supporter, and the encourager. So it becomes an inspiring, awakened relationship, and it's built on, you know, love and kindness, and everyone takes responsibility for their behaviour and their own feelings. And therefore they have the ability to respond. And this is how you create honest, happy, open, loving relationships. And it's the same with in work or in home, really. So I guess the more awake or self-aware people become, they can have those relationships, yeah?
Well, yeah, it certainly sounds. Oh, you amaze me. You just can cover so much territory in such a short time frame. You've just, you know, there's probably a lot of people now thinking, oh my God, I'm in a dramatic relationship.
Yeah. Well, it's how 98% of the planet live, because we didn't grow up with really aware, awake parents, because we came from that survival area. So emotional intelligence really wasn't available to us back then. But there is another way. And, you know, there's a lot of people out there championing home, wake up, you know, like, let's have, you know, if we could just, honestly, Mary, if we could just all say, I'm responsible for what I'm seeing in another. You know, if I'm seeing pain, if I'm seeing discord, if I'm seeing somebody acting out towards me, projecting onto me this stuff, this drama, then what am I doing to create that relationship? You know, who am I being?
Who am I being? Which is
what we started with.
Right, full circle. Well done. Well done. Full circle. So that's we're full circle. What can I say? And the other part of the full circle was, what have we learnt in the past year? I'm going to have to listen back to this and see what I've learnt in the past hour, because you have packed a lot in, and boy, there's some nuggets of gold in here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I hope so. And it's also, I can just tell you through my own life experience, and I know you've done so much work too, Mary, that the more we practice self-awareness and things like this, the more harmonious life becomes. And I can honestly say that from the bottom of my heart. And so I wouldn't want to live any other way.
No, and you'll get a big second on that for me, Marianne. Is I certainly wouldn't want to live with how my life was once before. So awareness, self-awareness, and the continual growth is it changes everything for the better.
Yeah,
for the better.
It does. Wow. Okay, I need to have a coffee. So thanks for listening, and if you did enjoy this, please like and share, and also subscribe, because this is on YouTube as a podcast, so we're looking for lots of subscribers. And
and send us a question if you want to know more, want to make us dive a bit deeper, then send us a question in the comment section. Love to hear from anybody.
And if you want us to do a show about a certain topic, or you just, you want to do something, just reach out. We've got all our links below. Thanks for listening. Bye, Mary.
Thanks. Bye.